All right, all right, all right. Welcome to another edition of Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. I'm DJ Impact, and I got all of the bad boys here with me this week, including King Lucky. How are you, King?
I'm doing well. The quarantine cowboys here.
Wow.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Fucking
Wow.
Quentin Quarantino over there.
Like a
Awesome.
quarantine cowboy.
Well, look, man. Well, good to see you this week, man. Let's get right to our three counts.
Did you forget what
You know what?
That's all, folks.
You know, I'm just juggling things over here. You know, I'm just like juggling. Yeah. So here's the first one, and this comes from WrestlingInc.com, and it's titled "Hugo Salvanage believes Vince McMahon may possibly sell." So, according to this story, I guess that Hugo here, he's a former commentator, and WWE commentator, and he says that
announcer. Spanish.
One more time?
Spanish.
Gotcha. That they're eager to put the Saudi story behind him. And one of the reasons why is because he believes that, possibly for $8 billion, WWE maybe would like to sell this to the Saudis, right? Because apparently the money that the Saudis make is on oil, and they're looking at the future, and oil isn't the future. So they need to figure out how to jump into some new form of business that can continue to bring in money. And they see this as being WWE as it's WWE money. No way could even compare to the oil money that brings in. But, hey, I guess it's still a business they could be a part of. So nevertheless, he believes, and apparently he stresses how much he is a huge supporter of Trump and everyone, that he believes that through the connection of Vince McMahon and with Trump, this easily can take place. And he sees this as possibly being something that could happen. Now, let's be real. When you read, he had a whole lot to say on this, and a lot of people had a lot of comments on it. Despite the fact that you believe he's crazy or not, and I'm sure you guys have some words to say on this, we're just kind of curious. First off, what is the chances of you ever thinking that there's a possibility of Vince McMahon wanting to sell his baby fully and totally to, to the Saudis or anyone that's not even a part of his family? Just get rid of it, and I guess, hey, I created it, so I'm going to destroy it before I'm out. Is that really what Vince would do? I don't think so. Fellas, I'm just curious. I know you read the story. You've heard what others had to say about it. Let me go with you on this one, Sin City Steve. What's your take when you read this whole story?
So, honestly, I wish I could say that I was surprised. But there's been a rumor that's been going for a while now that Disney was looking to purchase the WWE. And that's been something that's been rumbled about for a while now. That wouldn't necessarily surprise me. Now, selling it to the Saudis, I don't buy that. I definitely, if Vince would ever sell his baby and, part ways with it, wash his hands clean, it would be, in my opinion, to Disney, because Disney would overpay for it. But also you would have to look at it from a business point of view. Regardless of whether or not he's the owner of the company at a certain point, Vince McMahon and the McMahon family will always be attached, in at least the public eye, to WWE. So Vince is a very, very proud individual. As a result, I would only see him selling it to somebody that has their own type of a content platform, a major player such as Disney, because obviously they own ESPN, they own a shitload of things. They own definite content distribution channels and avenues to where they could further the WWE brand. I don't think that he will sell to anybody, but if he would sell to anybody, it would not be the Saudis, in my opinion. It would be to Disney.
Okay. Let me ask you, King Lucky. I know the article said that that because UFC sold for I guess for $5 billion, I guess $8 billion would be a good price for WWE. What was your whole take when you read this? You see any of this possibly ever being the case?
Well, I mean, since Steve mentioned, I definitely see it as being, some part of it as being factual. I just don't think that it would be sold to, as this article mentions, Saudi Arabia. I can't see it being sold to a foreign country.
Okay.
Because you would then lose out on so much revenue domestically. And I think even if you did sell it, like he said, maybe to a Disney or somebody like that, I think one of the key components that it has to be is that you have to have people that are currently within the, key officer positions that be part of the structure. So while Vince may be done with it and he may sell it off, but I think that, Triple H staff and a few other high-ranking officers would have important roles in the company. But the crux of this article, I don't believe it to be factual. I think that, all the work they did with the troops and the other things that they believe, I just don't think they would sell it to a country that is not as far along as they should be with their morals.
Interesting.
What
okay, well, I mean,
fuck are you talking about?
Hey,
will you take it, Matt Michaels?
Yeah.
Matt Michaels, tell us what your thought is on that.
Well, let's start off with the whole moral thing. Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's A. B. Hugo Savinovich? The fuck? Why are we listening to Hugo Savinovich?
Who the fuck is that?
Well, we know who the fuck he is because people used to crash through his table. But, I mean, the guy hasn't been relevant with the company for years now. He got fucking canned, a handful of years ago. It's probably a decade now or more. And, dude, it's just like, why are you looking at wrestlinginc.com for stories? Because not only is the story just fucking ridiculous, but every time I'm trying to read shit, I get 15 ads popping up. Thank you, DJ.
You're welcome. But let me ask you, Simon Street, come on now. This is Saudi money. Why wouldn't they consider if they were interested in selling to sell it to them?
Because it's real simple. Let's just play devil's advocate. If WWE sells their whole entire product to the Saudis, it will be changed culturally. It will be changed.
Yeah, but you're also assuming that it's going to be out of Saudi Arabia.
It's not going to be out of Saudi Arabia, but let's be honest.
But
It's going to change.
No, why?
I could tell you right now because WWE is an American product, and I do agree a little bit with what King Lucky said. You're going to miss out on domestic revenue.
All the fucking money that the Saudis have in this country right now, they ain't saying shit about stuff. It's an investment. They're not producing the product. They're going to fucking hire the staff. You're going to have the CEO in control. They just want a fucking money front. That's all this would be.
Well, that's cute. But at the end of the day, it's not going to work. It's just not going to fucking work. I hope it doesn't happen. Not going to fucking work because money doesn't solve every fucking thing. I mean, if that's the case, please show us your price tag.
What are you talking about?
I'll wait. I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, it's the dumbest fucking article ever. This article is not even based in anything that's relevant. Like,
No,
you're seriously, we're seriously talking for like 10 minutes now about something that will never fucking happen. We have a better chance of, like, I don't know, Alaska government buying WWE and making a headquarters there. Let's talk about that.
Alaska government? Do you not even know Alaska's part of our
My
country?
point is, it does not fucking make sense. Let's move the fuck on. I have nothing to say about this article. Out of all the three, this was the horrible one. Sorry. This is just dumb. Move on.
I gotta say, I agree with him on that.
Well then.
All right. Let's go to the end of our second count. This one is from essentiallysports.com. And it is titled WWE Storyline Bitterly Divides the WWE Universe. So, of course, if you all have now been watching SmackDown, one of the storylines that's been going on is the one with Jeff Hardy and Sheamus.
Hated it.
And well, you know what? I mean, let's talk about it. I mean, it says the universe is divided. Let me first do this before we even go. Just by, I know we're doing this in video and audio, so let's do a show of hands and by saying I, if you agree that this is a bad storyline.
Oh.
Okay, so I got one. Oh, okay, so I got you're the only one. Okay, so that means the other.
So here's the thing. My view on this is simply this.
Okay.
The idea of this storyline, I don't necessarily have a problem with, but the execution has been subpar for me. So,
okay.
It has been sloppy.
Wait, you mean Sheamus interrupting a Jeff Hardy match where Jeff, who's been around for 20 years, actually stops and looks at the screen and doesn't think in his head he's going to get rolled up?
And he completely paralyzed in awe of the screen.
Sheamus is like, was that it? He was looking at that glass going, wow, that's a huge Guinness, man.
Right. Yeah. That's my problem. Is it not the storyline itself, but the execution.
The execution. Okay. Yeah. Well, King Lucky, being that you was the only one who raised a hand, give me what's your take.
I said from the beginning, this storyline was shit. Not only that, but we've seen it before. And if you don't have somebody as good as, let's say, CM Punk, who was in this storyline with him before to execute it, what's the payoff? Like, when
did that storyline happen, Lucky?
Many years ago.
Okay. Did you remember that storyline, or did you remember it once it was given to you in the article?
No, I remember.
Well, I think we all
time ago.
Yeah, I think we all remember because he took shots at CM Punk's dad being alcoholic and shit, and saying he was going to be an alcoholic too.
But here's my thing is, like, what's in the end of all of this? What is the payoff?
I don't know.
Well, we haven't gotten there yet.
End game? Like, I'll tell you one part of the storyline that is actually amusing is the bar thing, where they'll have a bar fight. That's the only amusement that I've got out of this whole thing, and maybe the piss thing. But overall, I mean, it's done in poor taste, and both of these guys really can't deliver promos that well. So you're trying to sell me a story that I don't know. I just don't care about, and I don't. So,
well, I was entertained what was said this past week when he said butthole. I thought that was just brilliant. I haven't heard that word in a while. Butthole. That was the best part of SmackDown, by the way, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But so it seems like, though, that people are, according to the Upset with the Universe, that it's the storyline that it has to do with alcoholism, right? So according to the statistics,
fingers covering your face.
Yeah, man, you are pointing at the screen like so hard.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Great podcast. This great visuals today. Raising hands and pointing fingers. Excellent podcast, gentlemen.
It's only going to get better.
I'm sure the listeners are going to love all these visuals.
Yeah.
It says that an estimated 88,000 die from alcohol-related causes annually, and it's making alcohol the third leading preventable cause of death in the United States. So, I mean, with that, I guess the way that it's being looked at is not just the fact that the execution of it is just horrible, but the fans seem like they just have an issue with this being a storyline, period. And of course, we've had this, we talked about this being a storyline before, but is this something that should have been thought about from the beginning on taking on a topic like this, or it's no different than any other topic that they have taken on before? Anybody?
So my thing is this: how many people? I'm genuinely curious. How many people that have spoken out against this storyline and this type of a storyline are proponents of bringing back the Attitude Era? Seriously,
right?
I'm genuinely curious, because this is a storyline that we would see in the Attitude Era.
We saw it in WCW
very similar
too.
to it.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of people are looking back at the Attitude Era through rose-colored glasses, that this was such a great time for storylines and everything for the business. But at the same time, those people are also clutching their pearls and complaining about storylines involving alcoholism and other edgy things. You can't have it both ways.
Well, let me ask you this, because what I see on AEW right now is Hangman Page, right? That's a totally different storyline involving alcohol, where they're glorifying, his drinking and things like that, with like Stone Cold, like you mentioned, with the Attitude Era. But then with Jeff Hardy, this is something that he struggled with. So that's the reason why I have an issue with.
Come on. No, stop.
Ridiculous.
Freaking Scott Hall, WCW.
Yeah.
Legitimately had an alcohol problem and was doing a storyline while trying to recover from alcoholism, going in and out of recovery.
That was in poor taste too.
But I'm just saying exactly what Sin City Steve said. We didn't have a fucking problem with it in the Attitude Era, so we shouldn't have a fucking problem with it now. I do agree with Sin City Steve that it was done poorly. I feel like it could have been better executed. I felt like it was a little too chopped up. There were some cute things like the piss test thing. That was cute. Throwing piss in someone's face when really was apple juice. Yeah, cute. But it was just a little piss poor.
And that was for people who had there. And by the way, that's for people who actually saw that segment. I mean, that for the West Coast, a lot of people got that segment cut off, and Fox was like, nah, we're not going to have that. But yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but yeah, it seems like, I hear what you're saying, what King Lucky, but that's what the article is saying, is that what people seem to have an issue with is because of Jeff Hardy's battle with the substance. And look, granted, we know that he gave them the okay.
Yeah.
Bingo. Exactly.
So we do know that. On the other hand, though, are other people who's battling this issue?
Okay. Let's stop it right here. Let's make a very fucking valid point. The guy has personal issues and they're using it as a storyline. Fine. The problem is this. Once again, we're associating the performer instead of the character.
Yeah.
If you look at any fucking actor out there who is or has been or was a junkie on anything and then went on to play a junkie on something they had experience for, it's like, oh my god, that performance was fucking amazing.
It's true.
So let's just get past this fucking piddly shit of, man, it's just, he's had a fuck it, man. He made his choices in life. He fucked up many a times. And you know what? It takes balls to go out there and say, I fucked up. All right? And he fucking goes out there and he fucking tries to deliver shit from the bottom of his heart.
Yep.
I don't give a shit if he doesn't communicate well. Lucky, this guy doesn't have good promos. Neither does Sheamus. All right, Sheamus was one of the biggest fucking over things when he was a baby face. If you fucking don't remember.
Yeah, because it was Triple H's boy, and they pushed him through the moon.
So what?
That was Cameron Grimes. That's to the moon.
You always complain about, oh, they only use the same fucking people all the time, and then they try something like that. Oh yeah, come on, dude. You don't fucking go, oh, I wish I'd. In fact, I think there was a particular person in a chat room recently who brought up different names of people that he was so disappointed that they didn't use these people right. I wonder who that could have been. What's
yeah. Yeah, it was definitely me. And I was talking about Tyler Breeze and Fandango. So
yeah. Because they
don't have to go look for it. I'll tell you
better in AEW. Come on, dude.
I don't like the storyline. So that's
I like the storyline.
Everybody else has their own opinion.
I like the storyline, but I will say, because it's something that Jeff Hardy is actually realistically gone through, I think the problem is how they made the setting. I think and I'm saying this with a grain of salt, they started off with a good intention of setting the scene, but once that got botched, I feel as though like they've been trying to recover since then. And I feel like there's trying to make this storyline, the story beat work. Of course
they're trying to recover. It's an addiction storyline.
Okay, yes, I see your point. Very, very well put. But I am saying that where I would like to see this go is if we combine this with a resurgence of Jeff Hardy, to where this is like his obstacle, his hump to get over this. And yes, I know, because it's the business, he has to have an opponent. It's Sheamus. Yes. So Sheamus probably represents alcoholism, how it's always going to linger in your past. It's always going to be a part of who you are. You have to stare back at your past and the decisions you've made. So hopefully what I'd like to see is he overcomes Sheamus, he overcomes this, and then maybe he gets a push towards, I don't know, something great like a championship of some sort. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Just another thing for all the marks to fucking go, they're pushing Jeff Hardy now? Old. Come on. And then you want to talk about, we're talking about Jeff Hardy. Everyone's focusing on Hardy. Is no one going to point out the fact that Sheamus is Irish and it's fucking stereotypical?
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's true.
That is true. Fucking, then get in on that shit.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. I did think about that when I was watching him go back and forth. I'm like, look, bro, stereotypically, Sheamus is Irish and he's going to be drinking a pint.
And that's why he's playing it like that.
Yeah.
He
it's
gets
normal life.
It. Jeff gets it.
Yeah.
These guys are grown fucking ass men. If you don't like it, then change the fucking channel, Lucky.
Exactly.
But you can't. You can't, because you're a fucking mark.
Don't be a butthole. Don't be a butthole.
Hey, Smarkavelli, baby. One part of the product I don't like, I'll watch the show.
Well, hey, so again, they're Lucky is a part of the group that's divided over this particular storyline. So it's a lot of them, I guess, Matt Michaels, that that agrees with what he is saying. I guess the bottom line, though, is how this is, and I don't know, maybe the fans, like, I wish we knew a little bit more. Are they just straight marks, or are these people maybe that dealt with these types of issues as well? Maybe if not alcoholism, maybe it was something else. So when they see this being portrayed, they look at themselves as being a part of this and says, well, I wouldn't like that if this was me. Maybe it's a subject that they can't. I'm just throwing things out there,
But you want to talk maybes? Maybe there's at least one fucking person out there who sees this storyline and goes, you know what? I don't want to end up like that. I want to clean up my fucking
bingo.
Right.
Yep.
You know what? There's two sides to every fucking coin. Flip it in the air, see what fucking side it falls on. If it falls on tails, you're on my side. If it falls on heads, you're a fucking smark like this jackass down there.
Damn, he even gave the location and everything. He said down there. Shit. But you know what? You know what is kind of interesting, though, is the reason why I find it odd that some people even have a problem with this is because it's been done so many times. It's really nothing new. And if you are a smart, and you probably have watched the product and you've been a smart for 15, 20 years. So you've seen this same exact storyline be portrayed at least 4 times. Let's just be honest.
How happy lucky were you to see Hawk climb the Titantron?
I don't agree anytime these things are done.
So well, why is that? I mean, is that from a personal experience, or did you know somebody?
I just think,
I'm just curious.
No, not from a personal experience. I mean, I did have an uncle that died of cirrhosis of the liver from alcohol, but it's not touching that point for me. I just think that there's better quality storylines to be written and to be had, than this. And in this particular instance, just this one, to me, Jeff is at the end of his career. So there's not going to be this huge payoff where it may be a title involved. And if it is, I'm wrong, but I just don't like, to me, I'm not sold on the storyline.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. Did you want to add anything else, Sin City? I know you've been over there on the, listening.
No, I think that, like I said, the actual idea of the storyline, I don't have an issue with. It's the execution. There are some things that they did that, it is what it is. I'm not ever going to fault these guys for attempting to be creative, especially in a time like this where we as consumers of content need to understand that there are certain limitations that these companies have. So we should see these companies grasping for straws, throwing random things on the wall, seeing what sticks, and attempting to be creative rather than just trotting out, okay, well, here's your match card, and there's not going to be any kind of angles or storylines or, sports entertainment, if you will, in addition to the wrestling. So, as long as they're attempting that and attempting to be creative, I can't fault them necessarily on the idea of presenting these storylines.
Right, yeah.
It's just the execution that kind of takes me out of it. That's it.
I think here's the thing. If you are listening, oh, great ones at the WWE.
We know they are.
I'm just saying, if you are listening, please.
Just saying.
I'm giving you your next storyline. Okay. Otis comes back, and Mandy is very ill. Very, very sick. She's on a breathing tube because she's got COVID.
Oh, jeez.
God damn, that's grim.
Okay.
I'm just saying, hey, if these guys tested positive for COVID, play it into a storyline. I've got no problem with that because it's a fucking storyline.
Yeah.
Period.
And ultimately, the key thing that I think that we glossed over that really needs to be taken into consideration is that Jeff Hardy, in this instance, said that he was okay with the storyline.
Yeah, he gave consent.
Yet the outrage mob are the ones that are protesting and the ones that are upset about this whole thing. At the end of the day, if Jeff Hardy didn't feel comfortable participating in this storyline, then he should feel comfortable to be able to say, no, I don't feel comfortable with this. We should not proceed with this.
And then let me out of my contract so I can go over and join my brother Matt, and then we can do this all fucking night.
Right.
And come on.
They can both be elite. So hold on, they're protesting this? I mean, like, are they really protesting this, or I mean, like union workers protest? Like, shame on you, WWE, for
no. Listen, everyone's got Twitter fingers, and everyone is just saying, hey, they're just pleased with
Twitter is a cancer.
But and going back to Matt Michaels' example,
I'm pointing your finger. God damn
with
it.
COVID. If he was to do that, that also would be something that would send Twitter into craziness,
So that's that one, but
one thing really quick from the chat, and by the way, shout out to all of you guys hanging out with us on Facebook. I am reading your comments, and I'm pretty sure that all of us are seeing them come through, but one that I really want to draw attention to because it's extremely timely. Shant has this to say. He says, supposedly this Jeff versus Sheamus feud is to get Sheamus that IC title he never got in his career. Sheamus has stated publicly that he wants to have the IC title. So, I mean, if this is a vehicle to do that, cool. I'm on board with it. Get Sheamus the IC championship. That way he can be a true Grand Slam winner. I'm on board.
Okay. And King Lucky, that means he's got his belt, right? Because you want to make sure, if it's going to lead up to him getting a belt, then you're all for it.
No, my payoff is for Jeff, not for Sheamus.
Why not? Sheamus is pretty
He
impressive
doesn't
right
like
now.
Sheamus. We just established.
No, hey, listen, Sheamus is one of my Irish brothers. It's not that I don't like Sheamus. He doesn't have good promos.
Hold on. Time out. I just want to back that up. You said Sheamus is one of your Irish brothers.
Yeah.
Please provide some context because I am not Ancestry.com. I'm just
well, just for the people that need to be enlightened, I am half white and half black. The Irish side of me is the white side. Thank you, motherfuckers. So he's my Irish brother.
And here I was thinking the black side was the Irish part. My goodness, I stand corrected.
He's got freckles and fucking orange hair, man.
Thank you, Michaels. At least we can agree on this.
I didn't have to point it out. I knew it.
Look, when I was born, I had red hair.
Rainbow, motherfucker.
I had red hair when I was born. I'm not Irish. So
there you
I'm
go.
saying there's other cultures that have red hair. I just want to put that out.
Yeah, but you had it when you were born. He has it now. If he was not half black, I tell you right now, you would be one sexy motherfucking Dubliner.
Wow, that just went into wow.
All right.
Next.
All right. On to our third count for tonight. And this actually, we watched it on YouTube, but this is something I'm sure that aired on UFC's website or programming or maybe ESPN or however. It's called The Making of UFC Fight Island, and it was episode 1. And it was a good 15-minute video just on the preparation on UFC 251. And guys, I know we were last week, or maybe the week before, we was talking about just the different type of precautions that should be taken during this time of COVID. And part of the story I remember reading was the NBA and the NHL were thinking of doing some sort of a bubble out in Florida. I mean, are they still thinking about doing that in Florida? I mean, Florida's a hot spot.
The players have already been flown in.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The season
Okay.
starts on the 30th for basketball.
All right. So I'm just curious. I will say, after watching this video, they did absolutely everything that they could do to make sure that COVID did not show up nowhere in this bubble. And I'm just curious, what did you guys think about what you saw? And could anybody, I mean, no matter if it's WWE, AEW, the NBA,
the United
NFL,
States.
Yeah, does United States. Is there anyone that could look at this video and go, okay, this is a good plan that we can do? What's your guys' take on this? I mean, it was very well done.
I'll leave it really short. Yeah. When you put effort into providing infrastructure based on the current climate that we are in right now with COVID, you will find success. If you're looking to take in shit that happened before COVID and make it mainstay as the number one priority, you're going to keep going around in circles in this fuck jerkle shit we doing in this country. So I hope that our government, our federal government, actually watched the fucking video, maybe 4 or 5 times, and maybe duplicate some shit, because UFC was on point from start to finish. They took COVID seriously. They knew the goal that they wanted, and they set up the infrastructure so they could get what they want and provide safety for everybody. Done deal.
Yeah. But they did it through Abu Dhabi.
Well, they couldn't do it through our fucking country.
Right, but we were just arguing a point that if they got sold to the Saudis, you specifically said,
I'm talking about WWE. I'm talking about WWE. UFC and WWE are 2 different things.
No, they're not, in the sense of if you're in bed with the Saudis, or if you're in bed with Abu Dhabi and the Emirates there, you're taking oil money, man. Period. That
So
whole
what?
bubble was
So what?
built-
Somebody's grandmother had fucking blood diamonds. What's the big fucking deal? My point that I'm saying is the reason why I said what I said with WWE is because at the end of the day, if you look at how UFC is run based on their talent and where they come from, because they come from all around the world, they already have a way different setup than WWE. WWE has been trying to get on the same page as UFC has done for freaking years.
They built a whole fucking thing, man. That structure was built specifically for this.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Think that even the fucking NBA didn't create a fucking, dome fucking thing that was all pristine and whatever. They're fucking using hotels and shit. The fact of the matter is if that money wasn't behind them from Abu Dhabi, they wouldn't have been having this.
But yeah, that's not what I was talking about earlier. We were talking about a whole company getting sold to Saudi Arabia. We're talking about money being backed by Abu Dhabi that is still owned by UFC.
Yeah,
That's just a totally different thing. That's just like me saying, hey, Abu Dhabi, I would like to do this project. I want to make some money. Can y'all front me the money? Okay. Yeah, we in bed, but it could be an entanglement. It could be an entanglement, but it ain't a relationship.
But
that's funny.
They're in a relationship with the Saudis.
Who's in you talking about WWE?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in an entanglement with 7 years. But you're talking about buying them. You're talking about being sold.
But I'm saying that oil money is oil money. Regardless, if they're being sold or they're being backed or they're being fucking, held up at a fucking airport in Saudi Arabia. The fact of the matter is these motherfuckers, when you're dealing with outside, Emirates and fucking Arab money, you gotta watch out because you might be paying a price.
Okay, so let me.
But this is temporary. But is this not temporary?
Let me get you
everybody
back.
Right now, is UFC temporary? I think it's temporary. I think for right now, I think it's a good thing. But I don't think that looking down the road, once COVID is done 5 years from now, that UFC is still going to be in Abu Dhabi.
Okay, so even if we don't know that, what I want to get back to though is based on what we saw just from leading up to this past weekend show, what can be learned now from other sporting events, if there is anything that can be done? I mean, Florida's now created this bubble, which I don't know how they can do that. I mean, they were so protected to the point when we saw the fighters that were in Vegas, that entire hotel seemed like it was bubbled just for them. When they got into the bus, that was just for them. When they got to the airport, I saw caution tape that was wrapped around, like nobody could even be around that section as they were waiting. The plane was just, everything. It was just no way. And it was done well. But is there anything that could be learned from these other organizations that they can take from that?
Yes, don't fuck with Florida.
Take money from the Arabs.
Take money from the Arabs. Okay.
Well, hold on. You make a good point, Matt. Okay, I get that. Okay, but the amount of wealth from the 1%ers that's here in fucking America. If they get their heads out their asses, they could provide that almost amount of money. Maybe not the same as a fucking Arab. Okay, let's be fucking real. Okay, but the amount of wealth that's in America right now, they could put it and invest, but they don't want to because they don't give a fuck.
That's my point. That was my point. I'm so glad you finally got it. That why are you going to Abu Dhabi to do this? Because those fuckers said, hey, you want your own Corona facility and it's protected and we get publicity and we look like great people?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, Sin City, King Lucky, you guys haven't jumped in. What's your take? What did you think of this?
Well, I think the biggest thing that they did, and when you look at this, there's a couple of different varying factors that UFC has versus other sports. UFC probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 20 fighters, let's say, on that particular card, right? And this is not the only card they're doing there. They're doing about 4 different fight cards over the next month. So when you look at this, the most important thing is the testing and how aware they were of. They flew everyone into Las Vegas that was on domestic soil. Then from there, they tested everybody. And as you said, they had the hotel where everybody was quarantined. So they tested everybody. Then those people that were, perfectly fine, and there were a few that were held back that were trainers, then they were flown to Abu Dhabi and Fight Island. Upon landing there, they were then tested again to make sure that everything was good, and then quarantined from their trainers and everybody else for 48 hours. So there was a lot of spacing done and, trying to make sure that everybody was perfectly fine. But I think testing has got to be the biggest thing. With some of the leagues like NBA and NHL, you have more players. So it's going to be important for the players and, everybody around them to police themselves and police others. Because, if you have people going out of the bubble or things like that, you've got UFC fighters that are not multimillionaires like these basketball players and MLB players and NHL players. So it's really going to be imperative that they all police each other.
Okay. What's your take, Sin City?
So the thing that I think that everybody is forgetting about is if we rewind and we take a look at where Dana White was at the start of the rise of the coronavirus and the pandemic. A lot of us actually on this very show talked a lot about how Dana White was very, very capitalistic and that he would do absolutely everything within his power to ensure that he was providing content and that the UFC was doing its best to thrive as a business. Now, a lot of us at the time when we discussed that, a lot of us portrayed that in a negative light. The thing that really got through to me with watching this video was just the mere fact that Dana White put his money where his mouth was. And he and everyone else that was involved with, getting the facility built, getting the security checkpoints established, ensuring the testing happened on a daily basis, quarantining the fighters for 48 hours from the time that they got tested until they heard the results back. All of these things were done, and he among everyone else with the higher ups in the UFC seemed to have everyone's best interest in mind. So I definitely have to give props to Dana White and everybody involved with the UFC. I think that this is something that Vince McMahon could definitely learn from. This is something that Tony Khan could definitely learn from as well. I feel that out of all of your major combat sporting organizations, that the UFC is doing this right. And they genuinely have the safety of their fighters in mind first. And that is where we need to be, is we need to ensure that the safety of the fighters come first, the safety of the players and whatever other sporting organizations come first, because without them, there is no content. And without the content, then your business will not stay in business.
Here's a problem, Steve. Here's a big problem with that. And it's a simple fact. You're comparing sports organizations, right? So basketball, football eventually, UFC where they're actual fighters and stuff. Big difference that every single week you're producing content for wrestling. So to put a bubble in place, you would have to do kind of what we were talking about with rotating SmackDown and Raw.
Exactly.
But you'd have to, if you're looking at what it took to put on just this for UFC, could you imagine having to do that type of bubble on a weekly basis?
That's why you record the shows en masse. Let's say you record a month's worth of programming, and at that point, then you allow the people to leave the bubble after that fact.
And I like that point. That's a very valid point. My counter argument on it is, so once those people leave the bubble, all right, and those are people that you have written storylines and established storylines for and now you're not going to see them for another 4 to 6 weeks. What happens when 4 of those people catch coronavirus and can't go back to the bubble? And then how long is going to be the process to actually make sure that they're clear and they're not going to relapse and bring something else in or infect some, other people?
So I think one thing that we could really do, and when I say we, obviously, all of your major professional wrestling organizations. So when it comes to WWE, when it comes to AEW, and UFC is exempt from this because essentially we're just strictly talking about professional wrestling at this point. One thing that I would be completely in favor of is if we did the rotating rosters. As I had mentioned, you would be able to record that information in mass, and you would be able to produce a month's worth of shows at a time with these people. Now, one thing that you could do is you would be able to then allow them to, let's say that you recorded it over a 2-week period, okay, or even over a week's period, okay. If you recorded everything over a week and you set the expectation that, hey, we're going to go hard for this week, and then you're basically going to have a week off. 2 weeks of that should be spent in self-quarantine at that point. The latter 2 weeks of their break needs to be spent in self-quarantine so that when they come back, they are completely free and clear, because evidently there's the 14-day window that needs to be observed. So what needs to be done is build up that week's worth of programming, that week's worth of recording, to generate the month's worth of programming, and then set the expectation that for the next 2 weeks, you guys are completely free and clear to do as you please. Yep. And then after that, then the competitors would take a 2-week self-quarantine type of a status to where they genuinely quarantine themselves. And at that point, then the testing begins again for them. Yep. And so that way, in 2 weeks after that, when they report to the Performance Center, when they report to Daly's Place, when they report to whatever venue that they're going to report to, then you are able to test them. You are able to get everything in line with them, and everything should be free and clear. Ultimately, what this requires is more preparation. And unfortunately, that is something that we haven't been able to see from certain companies over the past years. It's not a thing that's happened lately. It's something that's been standing for a long time. That piss poor preparation.
Because they only think of the short game. They don't think of the long
game.
And that's why I think all of us can agree. We applaud Dana White for thinking of the long game. And anybody else, if the NBA decides to pull their head out their ass and start doing the same, it's only going to benefit you in the long run. Agreed. Because what's going to happen, and I guarantee you, between the NBA, NHL, or MLB, one of those 3 sports is going to fuck up. Mm-hmm. I can guarantee it, because they did not put the preparation with making the player safety key point.
I think in the MLB, there's already several amounts of COVID that has already started to affect many of the players I've read.
It's been that way in NBA too, but they've taken care of the,
No, they haven't. Don't give them the fucking pass, Lucky. They haven't taken care of that shit. They've done what the rest of these fucking companies do. They've been so consumed about money that they have a legitimate psyche fear that they're going to lose over funds. What they don't realize is your ass is shuffling around to make good on some dividends. You could have a turnaround in a couple of months. You're going to fuck yourself by the time you look at the end of the fiscal year.
Exactly.
Because you didn't fucking think ahead like a business person. You're thinking like a fucking punk.
Hey, Simon.
Yes.
You just got to call a beaver a beaver.
Thank you. A beaver, a beaver.
What really was one of the, for me, the highlight moments of this video, because you can give them, all the credit and stuff. Everything was well done, from their preparation and their testing and all that to the actual video taking and editing and everything. It was well done. Well, good. But the best moment, there was the one fighter who was Thomas, I think was his last name, the black guy, who tested positive.
He's a trainer.
Right.
Yeah. So, my favorite moment is, he just looks down at the camera and he's like, so, I tested positive and, it bums me out. I'm not going to have to go, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to stay positive, which I just started fucking dying laughing.
Yeah, because
the wordplay. Yeah,
the wordplay.
Because all of a sudden he says, I'm going to stay positive. I'm like, no, you don't want to do that, dude. What are you saying?
I mean, that's dedication, I guess.
Yeah.
Dedication.
And by the way, it was more of like Fight Peninsula. Not
Yeah,
really
if you
dying.
All right.
Yeah,
Like-
if you look at the geography, yeah.
Yeah, it's like Baywatch episode where Hogan and Vader are in a cage or something.
Oh, if
Do
I
you
don't have
got-
to see fucking Vader do the Baywatch slow motion run to save someone's life, I'm good.
It's a great episode.
So they did. So we agree that the job was done well. Do you guys think there was any overkill in what you saw? Was something, did they do too much of something?
No.
You can never
and
do
then-
too much when safety's involved.
Well, not
No
only-
one ever died of safety.
Well, and I'm going to reverse that. Did you see something that maybe could have been done even more?
I
And
didn't
what-
see it,
what-
but I hope other people that are deal with like OSHA or deal with other safety things that could improve. I hope that they have an open discussion for anybody to come forward and say, hey, this could have been done differently. Take that feedback and better build upon what they built so far in the mind of safety.
Yeah.
Okay. Was you going to say something, King Lucky? Or
Yeah, no, I think they did it perfectly. And if you look at the reported amount of cases that have come out, they've been very transparent. And there's only been like 4 cases in this whole 2.5, 3 month period since they've been running.
Well, what's really interesting though is, has anyone here seen a picture of Dana White in a mask?
No.
oh yeah, huh? No, I don't have. I
Yeah,
have it.
I found it kind of weird because when I was watching it and I saw, he every shot of him, he didn't have a mask on, and then I thought about him like, he's never had a mask, and so as much praise as you can give him, you also can say
He's not leading.
still won't portray the image of wearing a mask.
Yeah. Well, I guess with that, fellas, if there's not anything else, we'll sum it up. And again, it said it was episode 1, so should we guess then will there be an episode 2 of the same?
More to come.
They have
Okay.
a multitude of shows coming up. So
Perfect.
And
I would love to see that.
it's smart for him to keep doing that anyways, because it keeps with that mind frame of transparency.
If nothing else, it's great PR as well.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Let's call it what it is. I mean, let's call a beaver a beaver. I mean, it's good PR.
Teeth and all.
Okay.
No
okay.
teeth.
Everyone. Well, look, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, watching us, or listening to us on our 3 count. And
Real quick,
Yes.
can I just
Yes,
read
please.
something from the chat?
Please.
So actually, Scott says, keep in mind also the damage control WWE has had to do this year with the number of corporate firings. At the end of the day, WWE is trying to please their shareholders more than they are trying to please fans since they've publicly traded. UFC and AEW don't, since they're private. They can
That's a good
take
point.
more risky moves and not give a fuck. WWE can't exactly do that.
That's a very good point. Yep. That is a
Great
very
point.
good point.
yeah.
It is true. The more people you have to please that put money into creating what you have, you guess a lot of people to answer for. So it's a very good fact.
Well, and you got to think of it too in this aspect.
Mhm.
Vince wants to keep those stockholders happy because Vince still has a majority share of the company.
Shareholder.
yeah, like
If
70%.
if those stocks go up, well, then what does he do? He sells it to Disney or the Saudis.
Yeah.
Because now you have a very valuable company.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Out
Definitely.
the stock portfolio, that's the only reason you go public is to eventually sell your company.
I will say this, speaking of the Disney thing, and it was funny because it was a meme. They said, Disney, are you ready to buy it or something like that? Oh, no, WWE gets sold to Disney. And they showed a picture of, I think it was Triple H who fell on top of Trish Stratus, I think it was, and they were in the 69 position. I'm just going to put it that way.
Hello.
It's funny because I think about it. If Disney ever did buy WWE, I know we're not in the Attitude Era anymore. What does that look like? Thoughts for next time we talk about it? I just want to put
no, I'll tell you right now what it looks like. I'm damn straight going on the Katie Vick ride.
Nice.
All right.
All right, guys, look, you can always join the conversation. Hashtag Vegas Bad Boys with a Z of podcasting. And you can also reach out all of our social media, which when we're doing our Zoom now, we're actually looking at live comments. So you can just join the conversation then. And, if you miss that, you can always just hit up our regular social media platforms and we'll definitely hit you back. We thank you for listening to our 3 count, and we'll be back for another 3 count next week. Remember, you can also send in your topics of what you like for us to talk about and discuss. Just make sure you send us the link to the article and what's your take on it, and then we'll see how we can go ahead and fit it in. All right, so with that, that's 3 count. We'll see you next time.